We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. If you love college football, this is the place for you to be. We cover it all. So welcome on into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. You know the rest. If you want to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button. The last two live shows, I have gotten so many people upset with me. We have lost a lot of subscribers. People are fuming. I got to tell you, once again, we are the most unpopular national college football YouTube channel in the country. So if you want to be a part of the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country, go to the link under the video, hit the link, become a member, and I appreciate your support so very much. If you want to support this channel through a donation, hit that $sign where you make your comment, and then I'll get to super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate it. Yes. Yep. You are now once again inside not only the studio of PATC, but you are inside the war room. We're calling it CFP 24. This is the war room. This is where it all is going to, this is where it started. This is where it's going to end. We are going to punch it over the goal line. We are going to get this done. Now, a lot of you are saying, Greg, what the hell are you talking about? You talked about this 2 days ago. And then you went on this 5-month window. You see the comments? Go ahead, go back to the live show yesterday and go read the comments. How many times have I been called an idiot in those comments? Holy smokes. Hey, next time, don't hold back. Let us know how you truly feel about the fat guy from Minnesota. When I first started on this journey about the college football playoffs, I used to be one of those Puritans, those elitists. No, we can't go past 4 schools. And then I fell in love with the number 12. I fell in love with it. When there was talk about expanding the playoffs, and the idea came out of automatic qualifiers, more than just the conference champions. 4 in this conference, 2 in the other conference. Right away, I said, that is absolutely ridiculous. I am completely against it. But here at Peek Around the Corner, I try to keep an open mind. I listen to the arguments. I listen to Joel Klatt. I listen to Josh Pate. And I got to tell you, I started coming around on the auto qualifiers, the auto bids, the 4 bids. I started coming around. At first, I said this is going to happen. I said the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get 4 auto bids for the 2026 playoff format. And a lot of you said no, and I said yes. In fact, it is a fait accompli, and if it doesn't happen, I will eat a cheeseburger live here on this show. Well, it still looks like I'm going to eat a cheeseburger, but I think there's an outside chance I might not. And we'll get into it here in a little bit. I fell in love with the 2014 playoff model. I first fell in love with the AQ model. But I quickly realized that Tony Petitti's 4-4-2-2-1 whatever was dead in the water. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work. First of all, yes, the Big 12 and the ACC, if they would accept that type of format, they would be admitting that they're half the conference of the other 2, and they could not do that in public. But there's also this other thing where you're just not getting the benefit of the AQ model if you only have 2 of them. 2 AQs for your conference. Anyways. So I started preaching the 18-team playoff model. I started preaching the 20-team playoff model. I was begging for Tony Petitti to go out there and defend the AQ model, but you got to make it bigger. It ain't going to work unless it's bigger. If it's bigger, then it could work. Because the AQ model needs a large, healthy, at-large component to the model for it to work in college football. It needs both. It needs both. And that's why one of the many reasons, the number 24 is perfect. If you want to see this sport grow, we're talking about CFP bracketology, the bracketologists, you all making out your brackets. We're talking about access to the playoffs. We're talking about more teams in the hunt later in the season. We're talking about now listen to this. And we are going to go through what Joel Klatt said. We are going to go through what Joel Klatt said. Basically, what Joel Klatt said today is what I've been saying, but he said it a whole lot better. Of course he did. Because I am the original moron of Minnesota. We are going to go back. I'm going to show you the slides that he put up. There is a link in the description box below the video of his 9-minute video on this. So go check it out on your own. But we're going to talk about it tonight. But think of it this way. We are going in to week 9. We're going into week 9. Okay? Most Power 4 conference teams have 5 games left. Okay? We have gone through week 0 to week 8. Those have been 9 weeks of games, 8 full ones, and then week 0. If there was a 24-team playoff this year, about 90 FBS teams would have been eliminated from the playoffs. About 90, approximate. An approximate about 45 to 46 teams would still be in the hunt. Is that a bad number? Is that really is that a participation trophy type of number? And then after this week, week 9, a few of those teams are going to drop off. You can see it in the schedule. If you pretend that this is a 24-team college football playoff world that we're living in right now, there are games this week that are so much way more important in this world than in other worlds, than in a 4-team playoff, in a 12-team playoff. Is that bad? Is that bad? We've only eliminated 90 teams going into week 9, and we still have 45 teams in the hunt. And after this week, we're going to have about 40 to 38 to 35 teams in the hunt, depending on who wins and loses. Is that bad? Is that really bad? I don't think that's bad at all. In fact, I think that is the perfect blend. You know, I'm going to try to give an analogy here. I am going to try to give an analogy. This isn't going to be perfect. A lot of you are going to turn this channel off and say, Greg, you are so off the beaten path. I can't even listen to you tonight. Just try. I'm I'm going to try to. I'm trying to give you an analogy here. We got a very kind super chat. Thank you, Hammer Hennison. If a Republican governor is elected, does it mean a 4-year delay for realignment? No. No, not even close. If there's a Republican Virginia, if the Republican candidate wins in Virginia for the governorship, it means that the SCC has more of an open window, a longer open window to make their move for Virginia. Right now, though, it doesn't look like the Republican Virginia candidate is going to win. And that is what I was trying to say. Then there's like a 5-month window for the Southeastern Conference to truly act if they want it to get it done as smooth as possible, which they would want to. Look, I haven't... That show last night, my DMs... There is a lot of pissed off people at me. So I don't know if I want to talk about that tonight. Again, in a super chat I will. And a phone call I will. But the other comments I won't. Thank you for the $5 holler. No, I don't think there's a 4-year delay on anything realignment, to be honest with you. If a Republican Virginia, if the Virginia candidate, Republican candidate wins, it just means the Southeastern Conference has more time. But I don't think it's a 4-year delay. But they're going to have more time. I understand why you're asking that question. We shall see what happens. That's the only political race that I'm interested in, because it's the only political race during this off-season 2025 that has anything to do with realignment. So I got to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it after the show, after that election, and we'll see what happens. Thank you, Hammer Henderson. I appreciate the $5 holler. I'm going to give you an analogy here. It doesn't quite work perfectly. Okay? It doesn't really work. But I'm going to use it anyways. The 24-team model. Again, we're going to go into what Joel Klatt said. I also want to go into a Brett McMurphy article of yesterday talking about how there are going to be more head coaches being fired this year. No doubt about it. He basically laid it down. He laid down the marker. We are going to go through that article. The coaching carousel is about to get even a little bit more crowded. It is going to be wild. And the ripple effects on that, you got to, this guy goes here, so then you got to hire someone to fill that spot at the back feeling. It's going to go on and on. It's going to be wild. And who knows how far the ripple effects takes us. Like, there might be programs about to lose their coach that they would have no idea that they were going to lose their coach. But this is going to be a large ripple effect. We are going to get into that. Here's my analogy. The 4-4-4-4-2-6. I think it's the right number. I think it's the right blend. Like Joel Klatt said in his video today, it is pathway access, which is the AQs, and then you have the selection, which is 6 of them, 18 and 6. That's the right blend. That's the correct blend. It reminds me a little bit of the Great Compromise by our founding fathers when it comes to the balance of power. In other words, the Big Ten and the SEC are the large states. The Big 12, the ACC, and the G6 are the little states. The U.S. House of Congress was basically the large states are going to have more power. But the Senate, there are more smaller states than bigger states, and they all get equal representation. So therefore, the Senate is going to favor the little states if they all gang up and believe in what if they believe in the same things. It was the great compromise. It was the great blend. This 4-4-4-4-2-6 is the great blend. The AQs are a nod to the little states, the littler states, the smaller states, because they're going to have an equal representation. But then the at-large bids, 6 of them in the 2014 playoffs, is the nod to the larger states. In fact, in Joel Klatt's Fox projections, if this right now was a 2014 playoff world, the Southeastern Conference, out of 6 of those at-large bids, would get 5 of them. Now, it's just a projection, but it shows that this format definitely would not hurt the Southeastern Conference this year. It would not hurt them at all. In fact, it would be a boon to them because they would have more teams in the first round of the playoffs. They would have more home campus games, more chances to get. It would be great for the Southeastern Conference. In most years, it would be. Some years, they might only get 6 out of the 24, 7 out of the 24. 8 out of the 24. This year it happens, if the projections, if we treat them as reality, they would get 9 out of the 24. But yet, the Big 12 and the ACC would have their shot. To get more than 4. But the floor is 4 each. And according to what Joel Klatt is putting down there, we'll go through it in a minute here, in a little bit. Even the G6 conference, they would get at least 2 bids, but maybe they would get more. So again, I think this is the right blend for everybody. In my opinion. Again, this is the War Room, the 24 CFP War Room. Okay, now let's get into it. Let's first, we've got a very generous Village Idiot. Welcome to the early P Cloak and Dagger. The Village Idiot is a new member. I very much appreciate it, sir. You are knighted. Cloak and Dagger. You can go to our library of episodes, go watch all the episodes, including the members only episodes, early P Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so much, Village Idiot. I very much appreciate your generosity. Thank you for being a part of the family. Very much appreciated. We got Expedition Greg. Go Buckeyes. Thank you for everything you do, my friend. Please, everyone, like and subscribe. It helps with the algorithm, folks. Thank you, Expedition Greg. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye. Peak and Cloak and Dagger member for 23 months. Holy smokes. Mr. Buckeye, you are officially Cloak and Dagger once again. I appreciate it, Expedition Greg. Thank you so much for your generosity. Very appreciate it very much. We've got another super chat from Helmer Hennison. Thank you for the $5 holler, Mr. Henderson. Would schools like Florida State be better off hiring general managers and recruiting support staff instead of paying a buyout, etc.? I don't know. That'd be a great question for the Seminole fans in our PATC family. I guess you can make an argument. For that. You know, I'm sure they already have a big, healthy recruiting staff at Florida State, right? They don't. I don't think they have a general manager though. Correct? I don't know, guys. I watched that Florida State Stanford game. That was not a well-coached team out there. I don't know what they already had. You know, they went into that game with a whole lot more talent than Stanford. I'm not sure. Boy, it's Alford is in a tough spot because obviously Florida State does not really have the money to do this yet. To take Norvell out of there. But yet again, if they don't take him out of there, they're going to lose money in other ways. It's a tough spot. Best case scenario for the Seminoles is to beat Wake Forest this weekend. Take care of Wake Forest. It's a good question, Hammer Hennessy. I really don't have an opinion. I guess I do have an opinion, but I think they should buy him out. But then again, it's not my money, right? But I think they're about to lose a lot of money anyways if they keep Norvell along. That's just my opinion. Let me know your opinion, Mr. Henderson. Everybody in the chat room, let me know your opinion. And that is a good segue. That is a good segue to the coaching situation. We're going to talk about Brett McMurphy's article first, and then we're going to go into what Joel Klatt said about the 2014 playoff. He said the idea is getting bounced around, it's being floated, and it is gaining traction. It's gaining a little bit of traction. He said that multiple times. Joel Klatt today in his video. We're going to go through that in a moment. Brett McMurphy yesterday. All coaches want is a little patience, but more firings are coming. Brett McMurphy, he says it's coming. He says it's coming. The greatest coaches at Virginia Tech, Duke, North Carolina were able to become the winningest coaches at their respective schools because their schools provided something today's coaches are not receiving, and that is patience. Patience from the presidents, the athletic directors, from the boosters, from their fan bases. It was a different time back in the 1980s. Schools gave coaches a few years, not a few games, before determining whether to move on. The coaches had the luxury of waiting for a recruiting class to fulfill expectations. There was no transfer portal to make an immediate fix. Near the end of his storied career, Beamer told me he was surprised he survived in his early days at Virginia Tech. First off, I was 2-8-1 in my 6th season. Yet, they did not fire me, Beamer said. Second, in my introductory press conference at Virginia Tech, I thank all my family members, except somehow forgot to thank my wife. Fortunately, she did not fire me either. And then they talked about Brett McMurphy goes and talks about the Blue Devils' famous basketball coach in Mac Brown, North Carolina. Obviously, longevity does not guarantee success, but patience has paid off for some schools. Other schools would rather pay the buyout and hit the reset button. The college football season just passed the halfway mark, and there have been 9 FBS firings, 6 at power conference schools. 6 of them. 6 of them at power conference schools. Brett McMurphy, PATC money shot number 1 of the article. There are 2 PATC money shots in this article. This is number 1. Brett McMurphy on 3. I expect many more changes in the near future. The majority from the list below. Since the start of last season, here are the 15 power conference schools that have a 30% or worse winning percentage against power conference opponents. So, Brett McMurphy's saying more changes in the near future. The majority of those changes are going to come from this list. Purdue, it ain't going to come from Purdue. They just hired their new coach. He's in year 1. It ain't going to be Purdue. Oklahoma State, it's already happened. So we're looking at Kentucky, possibility. We've got Stoops on our hot seat list here, peek around the corner. Mississippi State, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Florida State is on the list. That's Norvell, of course. Loxley is on the list. Luke Fickell is on the list. Hugh Freeze is on the list. Of the 15, Purdue, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Wake Forest, UCF, UNC, all either have a first-year coach, so they should be safe, or they've already fired their coach. That leaves the following. And here is the PATC money shot number 2. That leaves Mark Stoops, Kentucky's Mark Stoops, Mississippi State's Jeff Lebby, Florida State's Mike Norvell, Maryland's Mike Loxley, Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, Auburn, Hugh Freeze, Arizona's Brent Brennan, in Michigan State, Jonathan Smith. Here is the PATC money shot number 2. Of those 8, I believe Brett McMurphy, with all the connections that he has, the Rolodex of all the agents, of those 8, Stoops, Lebby, Norvell, Loxley, Fickell, Freeze, Brennan, Smith. Of those 8, I believe more than half will be fired. Which ones? I won't spoil it for you just yet. You just have to wait. You know, be patient. More than half. So Brett McMurphy is expecting 5, 6 of these 8 to be fired. Okay? If that is the case, let's say there's going to be 6. Who do you think is not going to get fired on this list? Who is not getting fired? That's the question. That's the question. Now, Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, we just saw that big letter from athletic director McIntosh. It sounds like the plans is Fickell is going to be here in 2026. He's going to be coaching in Madison in 2026. All right? All right, so Fickell, maybe he's safe. Jeff Lebby. I don't know. I think it's a little early for Jeff Lebby. I think he gets another year, right? Or am I wrong on that? But I think Mark Stoops, Hugh Freeze, Mike Norvell, Mike Loxley, I think they're gone. I think Mark Stoops, Mike Norvell, Mike Loxley, and Hugh Freeze are gone. Who's the fifth one on this list to be gone? That I'm having a little bit of trouble with. I think Jonathan Smith will get a third year, but maybe not. Brennan should get a third year, but maybe not. Let me know who do you think should be the fifth guy on the list or the sixth guy on the list. But I think Stoops, Norvell, Loxley, Hugh Freeze are all in a bit of trouble. And we've got Norvell, Freeze, Stoops, and Loxley on our hot seat list. So we got Fickle there, obviously. So we got 5 of those 8. We have Brian Kelly on there. But we do not have Brennan, Jonathan Smith, or Jeff Levy. But maybe I'm missing something. Put down your comments and thoughts on the Brett McMurphy article. Stephen Vitt, Stoops, Norvell, Freeze, Brennan, and Smith all get fired. Greg is conceding the axe game. I mean, Ryan Willie. Greg, I'm conceding the axe. Don't concede nothing, Ryan Willie. The Gophers can lose to anybody. Anybody. They got outplayed by Purdue. They got outplayed by Rutgers. Don't give up. Never give up, Ryan Willie. Never give up the axe. I think we're going to keep it, but never give up on that game. The Gophers are a few injuries away from being in desperate shape. Don't give up, Ryan Willie. Do not give up. Norvell should be number 1 on that list. It's year 6, Daniel Gorby. Where do I have Norvell on the list? I've switched this so many times. I do have Norvell number 1. I really do think it's Norvell, Freeze, and Stoops are 1, 2, and 3. I think they're all ones. I think Mark Stoops is gone. I've heard some stuff, and I think he's like literally gone. He's still there, but I think he's I think John Summerall is going to be the new head coach of Kentucky. So I think Tulane's head coach is going to be the new coach of Kentucky for 2026. So when Mark Stoops gets fired, Kentucky's 1.0 hot board list, Summerall is going to be the only one listed. In Florida State, like Daniel Gorby says, I think Norvell's gone. They're going to have to figure out a way to pay him out of there. I don't know. They're going to have to come up with the money. Hugh Freeze is a very inexpensive buyout. Auburn is going to make their move. Auburn has been so close. That's what's so frustrating about the Hugh Freeze situation. Okay, now let's get into Primetime should be fired for being a fraud. Oklahoma State MBM. Ryan Thomas, if Michigan beats the Buckeyes, Buckeye fans will demand Ryan Day be fired the day after winning back-to-back titles. Maybe the Buckeye fans will demand that Ryan Day be fired for one day and then bring him back as a punishment for losing to Michigan again. Sean going to be $500 million this year in coaching buyouts, and we wonder why conferences are struggling for money. College football is a mess right now. Daniel Gorby, they have the money, 6-year payout. It will be a line item. Yeah, but a lot of schools have a lot of line items. Those line items are really starting to stack up. Schools have debt payments on their athletic facility, their renovations of their stadium, a new whatever that they just brought in, like lacrosse, like Florida State, money on premium seating that they had to put in, money on some coaching buyouts of their baseball team, their softball team, possibly the football team, the last coaching hire. There's line items, debt payment, added scholarships, rev share. A lot of money. Lots of money. Okay. All right, so let's get into this Joel Klatt again. I apologize. Dante's Inferno, our hot seat list has been, every coach that has been fired has been on a hot seat list this year. We have been on fire, Dante's Inferno Purgatory. No pun intended. Okay. So I took these slides. I took these pics off the Joel Klatt video today. Okay? If you want to watch the video, I do have a link provided in the description box below the video. There is a link there. Joel Klatt starts the show off by talking about how the 2014 playoff is being floated out there and he hears it's gaining traction. He mentioned that a couple of times. He did not say it's done. He just says it's out there. And Joel Klatt really, he has learned to love it. Just like I have. It's an acquired taste. Now, let's go through this. Joel Klatt, the top 4 teams from each of the Power 4 conference standings. 4 from the Big Ten, 4 from the SEC, 4 from the Big 12, 4 from the ACC. And then, this is the interesting part, something that I think is a little bit different than I was expecting. Joel Klatt is saying the 2 highest ranked teams from the group of 6 conferences, not the 2 highest ranked conference champions. I don't know how to feel about this. Other than to say, the more I think about it, the more I think Joel Klatt is going to be accurate. And I'm going to be wrong. The powers that be, if this ever happened, we are sitting in the studios of the 24 CFP War Room. If this is ever going to happen, it's probably going to be how Joel Klatt has got it on this slide. The 2 highest ranked teams. So it could be 2 teams from the same conference. And he's probably right. I would like to have it 2 highest ranked champions. But I think he's going to have it right because it's going to be more, there's going to be more security in that. Like the second G6 school, there's a better chance that it's a more competitive, it increases the chances that second G6 is more competitive. I understand the thinking on that. Anyways, so 4 from the Big Ten, 4 from the SEC, 4 from the Big 12, 4 from the ACC, and the 2 highest ranked teams from the group of 6 conferences. Those are your 18. You see the access, you see the pathway. Then there are 6 at-large selections from the CFP selection committee. All right? Kenneth Maynard in the chat room, the American could get 2 teams in here in this 24-team setup. Yes, and you're going to see that here in a little bit. Now, this 24-team playoffs that we're about to show you, this is a projection. Not how it would be today, but how Joel Klatt, Fox, projected this out by the end of the season, which is probably a better way than I did it a couple of days ago when I said, okay, the season ended now, and this is a better way to do it, okay? Projections. We're pretending that this year is a 24-team college football playoff year, and the projections are reality. The Big Ten. Automatic qualifiers. The projections would show that it's Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and Illinois would be in the playoffs at the end of the season. Currently, Michigan, USC, Minnesota, Iowa, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington would be in the hunt. Some of those teams, and if you look at what teams are in the hunt, are long shots, extreme long shots. But they are in the hunt. Okay? None of those Big Ten teams in this season, right now, in this projection, none of them would get the at-large bids in the Big Ten. Okay? Per projections. But there would be, 7 of them would be in the hunt for the auto qualifiers and maybe an at-large bid. Here is the SEC. Here is the Southeastern Conference. Auto bids, automatic qualifiers, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. At-large bids, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, and LSU. In the hunt, Texas. Okay? So right now, the projections, there would be 9 Southeastern Conference teams in the 2014 playoff. That is to the extreme, right? But that's how this season is playing out if this was a 2014 playoff. In the Big 12. Automatic qualifiers. It would be BYU, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Arizona State. Still in the hunt would be Utah, Houston, TCU, Iowa State. Going into this week. Now, some of them are going to fall off, just like in the Big Ten. Maybe some in the SEC. Maybe Texas falls off. But right now, going into week 9, this would be your projections in the Big 12. In the ACC, the 4 teams in the automatic qualifiers would be Georgia Tech, Miami, Virginia, and Louisville. In the hunt would still be SMU, Pittsburgh, Cal, and Wake Forest. I mean, SMU is undefeated in the ACC. Pittsburgh is 3-1 in the ACC. You got some teams that are still in the hunt in a 24-team playoff. They're allowed to get better. They're allowed to get some guys healthy and be better at the end of the season than they were at the beginning of the season. And they're allowed to still have that dream of getting into the playoffs going into week 9. What about G6? The automatic qualifiers would be USF and Tulane. Both teams from the American. The at-large bid is Notre Dame, along with 5 SEC teams. Those are your 6 at-large bids. Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU. You see how the Southeastern Conference is not being harmed by this? The Southeastern Conference is not being harmed by this. Michael Smith puts up a good 9-game schedule. We'll give a lot of those the extra L. No question about it. This is the extreme. I don't think we're going to see very often 5 SEC teams be the at-large bids in most projections after week 8 in most seasons, especially when they go to the 9 conference games. Go back to the G6. USF and Tulane going into week 9 would be projected as the automatic qualifiers. Look who's still in the hunt. Of course, Navy is. South Dakota State is at the top of the Mountain West, along with Boise State. James Madison in the Sun Belt. Boise State, Memphis, North Texas, UNLV. With 2 G6 teams going in the playoffs. That's how many teams would still be in the hunt going into week 9. Okay. Now, you have over 40 teams in the hunt, projected to be the auto bid, projected to be at large, 45, 46 teams after week 8. And I would ask you, is that really a bad number? Really? Is that a participation trophy type of number? I don't think it is. Out of 136 FBS schools, 45 plus schools are still in there after week 8. I think that's a healthy number. I think that's a responsible number. I do not think that's the laws of diminishing return type of number. And after this week, the number's going to go down a little bit more. San Diego State is in the hunt. Now, this is what would be the projected 2014 bracket. This is the projected 2014 bracket. I'm sorry I do not have a better picture of this. Take a look at the first round. You would have Tennessee playing at Virginia. Virginia gets a home game. Again, we talk about what incentive is there. What is driving? Why would all these regular season games be so much more important, Greg? Well, Tennessee would love to be playing at home. Just like they would love to play it at home against Ohio State in the 12-team playoff. They would really want to be at home. There would be a lot of pressure on Josh Heupel to get a home game. The Volunteer fan base would demand a home game in the playoffs, but they would not get it in this projection. Virginia would get it. Miami would just miss out on a first round bye, second round home game. That would be heartbreaking for Miami. Again, an added drama, storyline, motivation, drama. Trash Panda says 24 team is too much. Maybe it's just too much drama for some of you. I say bring on the drama. Number 20, LSU Tigers. They got to go to Oklahoma. Number 13. And LSU fans would probably be a little disappointed in that, but they're still in the playoffs. What about Cincinnati at Notre Dame? Cincinnati, Big 12 school. One of the 4 out-of bids. They get the third one. You got USF, the 18th seed. USF going to play Missouri. Bynum Brown versus Bo Pibula. You've got Arizona State, Sam Levitt going against Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. You've got the Louisville Cardinals versus the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Are you kidding me? Miller Moss up against that defensive line. Texas Tech fans would be ecstatic with the first round home game. Maybe a little disappointed that they did not get a first round bye. Second round home game. Big difference between being the 8th team and being the 14th team. But a big difference between being the 14th seeded team and the 19th seeded team. And then you got the Fighting Illini of Illinois going to Provo, Utah. The winner of Tennessee and Virginia would have to go to Ohio State, Columbus. Tulane and Miami, the winner go to Ole Miss. LSU, Oklahoma, the winner go to Alabama. Cincinnati, Notre Dame, the winner goes to Georgia. USF, Missouri, the winner goes to Indiana. Arizona State, Vanderbilt, the winner goes to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. Louisville, Texas Tech, the winner goes to Texas A&M. Illinois, BYU, the winner goes to Oregon. The second round games would also be at home. It would be at Ohio State. It would be at Ole Miss. It would be at Alabama. There'd be a game at Georgia. They would not miss out on this. The top 8 programs would also get a home game, which basically the Southeastern Conference really wants it. One of the reasons that they want a larger college football playoff format. Indiana would get a home game. Georgia Tech would get one. Texas A&M would get one. Oregon would get one. Put down your comments. What do you think? Again, this is just a projection. A projection of the 24-team playoffs. 4-4-4-4-2-6. Joel Klatt on his show today said he believes it is gaining traction. That this is actually gaining traction. And he has fallen in love with it. I have fallen in love with it. I think every time I talk about this, more and more people in the PATC family are at least starting to be open-minded about it. Like, maybe this will work. Maybe this is not crazy. Maybe there's something to this. Ron Elite, Greg, the Southeastern Conference would want it if they expanded their league to 24 or 25 teams. Well, we do know, per Ross Dellinger's reporting on multiple times, one on Yahoo Sports and one in his podcast, with Andy Staples and another gentleman I don't know the name of, Ross Dellinger did say that the Southeastern Conference was seriously exploring a 32-team playoffs, a 28-team playoffs. Is 24 too much for the Southeastern Conference? Expedition Greg says he's on board with it. We got Ryan Thomas. Ryan Thomas. Super chat. Greg has cooled the Cougars. I don't think so, Ryan Thomas. I don't think so. I have won on BYU. I have lost going against BYU. BYU Cougars plus 2.5. I took BYU. The PATC Einsteins took BYU. Superman no longer wears a cape. He wears the number 47. Bear Bachmeier. There is a lot of quarterbacks, who would have lost that game against Utah, being the quarterback of BYU. Who did BYU beat the week before in overtime? I'm having a mind lapse. Who did they beat in overtime? I can't remember who they beat in overtime. Arizona. Yeah. Okay. Arizona. I mean, Barry Bachmeier, he was Superman in that Arizona. He said, everybody get on my back. I mean, that guy, if it's a third, okay, if it's 2nd and 10 and he's running with it, he may not get 10 yards, but he's going to get 7 or 8 that make it a 3rd and 2. And then he's going to make sure they get the first down. The guy makes the plays. He'll avoid a hit, or sometimes you can hit him, but then he squeaks on for that extra half a yard while BYU needs a half a yard. And the guy has a quick release. Sometimes he has a quick release. Sometimes he kind of cranks it up. And then he hits the guy over the middle. I am so unbelievably impressed with Bear Bachmeier. The difference in that BYU Utah game is Utah could not, and they did it anyways, but Utah really couldn't go crashing. They couldn't go crashing. I know they did sometimes. Anyway, they're very aggressive defense, very good. But Bear Bachmeier could make you, he could punish you more than one ways if you do that. He can find that open receiver and take that quick shot and be accurate enough to complete enough of those passes where then Utah could not keep going forward. BYU just kept going forward, moved their safeties up in the box. They clamped down. Dampier made some plays, but you couldn't do it enough. Utah could not take advantage of the numbers that they had if they could throw the ball downfield with effectiveness. But they can't. And BYU knew it. I'm not saying anything that everybody knows what I'm saying. So it's obvious. BYU, again, they win these close games, but they do it in a way that their goal is to win the football game. They figure you out. Bear Bachmeier gets comfortable after getting hit a couple times. They figure you out and they beat you at the end. Real impressive. Chauncey Billups arrested in a gambling sting. Yeah, wow. That is, well, first of all, there's going to be a movie made out of that. The way it was explained how they rigged the card game, allegedly, if it happened. The Gambino family was part of it. Yeah, it's what a story. I'm hoping that Chauncey Billups is not, that this is a miscarriage of justice and everything, but a lot of the, and I'm not going to direct this at Chauncey Billups or the other people. I'm just going to be very vague with the statement. Some of these guys get in so much gambling debt that this is the only way out. They got to work with the mafia. I'm not saying that's this particular person's issue, but they get so far in debt that this is the only way out. They're sinking. They get a life. And the mafia loves it when you owe them so much, and they got you on the hook. I'm not saying in this particular case that's what happened, because I do not know. Mayor McCheese, thank you for becoming a new member. Mayor McCheese, thank you so very much for your generosity. Thank you, very kind, sir. I appreciate it. You are officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Thank you so much. If you want to become a member of our program, go to the description box below the video. There's a link provided. Hit the link, become a member. Thank you, Mayor McCheese. Thank you so very much. Helmer Hennison, super chat. '24 college football playoffs encourages the SEC, the best teams, not to play each other. Need to get rid of the early polls. The SEC will gain more and more money and power. Thank you for the $5 holler, Hammer Hennison. I don't agree with that. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. The 24-team college football playoff format encourages teams to play each other in the non-conference. The best teams, the biggest brands, because you have those 6 at-large bids. You've got 2 bites of the apple. If you win your non-conference games, the big ones, then you are lined up to possibly get an at-large bid, even if you do not finish in the top 4 of your A4 conference. If you lose the non-conference big games, now you have a shot you still have a shot to get in the top 4 of your conference. Like Texas. Texas is in the hunt. They lost to Ohio State. They're not doing very well. They're still in the hunt, but they still can make it as an automatic qualifier dependent on the standings in the SEC. I think the 24-team playoffs, this format encourages the best non-conference games that there can be. Number 2, the SEC. Again, I think this is a great compromise. The Southeastern Conference, most years, will not be harmed by this format. They're going to get a lot of teams in the playoffs. A lot of those teams are going to get a first round bye, a second round home game. A lot of those other teams are going to get a first round home game, but not all of them. In this projection, you see Tennessee would have to go to Virginia. I also believe, Helmer Hennison, that this projection is mighty kind to the Southeastern Conference. Remember, they're going to go to 9 conference games. They're going to lose that advantage. But they're still probably going to get the most teams in most years, but not every year. I don't think every year. But they're not, overall, they're going to get the most teams in if they continue to be the best conference in the country, or the second best team in conference if some of you still believe the Big Ten has usurped them. But my point is, it doesn't harm the Southeastern Conference. And it surely does not harm the Big 12 and the ACC, because they can win it on the field in the playoffs. They can change perception. They're going to get at least 4 spots. They might get a 5. They might get a 6. But in the coming years, they might gain more spots by winning more playoff games and changing the perception. Hopefully, they win those non-conference games. I think it's the great blend, the great compromise, in my opinion. Thank you, Hemmer Hennison. Thank you for the $5 holla. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We've got another super chat, Kenneth Maynard. East Carolina Pirate. This gets the G6 schools invested in a playoff race, helps attendance, and encourages G6 schools to invest to win. Ratings for premium G6 matchups would go up, particularly in the American and the Pac-12. So, Kenneth, my question to you is, would you rather have the G6 have it to where it's the top 2 rated G6 schools that get the automatic bids, or the top 2 conference champions of the G6 conferences get the automatic bids? Let me know, Kenneth Maynard, which one you would prefer. But overall, yes, I do agree. I think it would help the G6 schools immensely. I absolutely agree. Thank you for the $10 holler. Thank you for the comment, Kenneth Maynard. I appreciate your generosity and your support to this channel. Thank you, Mr. Pirate. We've got another super chat, John Teal. "24 teams could make it easy for Notre Dame independence." Okay, well, maybe, possibly, maybe, but then again, I would give more credit to Notre Dame than I would take credit away from Notre Dame. In other words, UCLA, you're Bruins, John Teal. You're Bruins. Right? Finish in the top 24, and you got a very good chance of getting that large bid. Same rule applies to everybody. Right? Yeah, and most years Notre Dame is probably going to make the playoffs. Well, most years Alabama is probably going to make the playoffs, and most years Tennessee is probably. But there are going to be slots open for programs that have never seen the playoffs, never had a chance for the playoffs, would never see the playoffs, and suddenly they're going to get all this exposure, all this. Indiana was helped so much by making the playoffs last year. Georgia Tech is being helped so much by having a chance to get to the playoffs, and now they're 7th in the land. You've got Vanderbilt. I mean, a lot of these teams in a 4-team playoff would still not have a shot to get to the playoffs. Even in a 12-team playoff this year, some of them are going to go by the wayside, just missing it. Thank you for the $2 holler, John Teal. I very much appreciate it. In a 24-team playoff, you're still going to have good teams miss the playoffs. You are. You're still going to have pretty decent teams miss the playoffs. They're going to miss it. they're going to miss it. Let's say these projections are absolutely correct. USC is going to miss it. Michigan is not going to get there. Iowa's not going to get there. Texas ain't going to get there. Utah just ain't quite going to get there. Iowa State ain't quite going to get there. Up and coming Cougars, TCU, not going to quite get there. If these projections turn out to be accurate, we're pretending here. We're pretending. SMU, not quite going to get there. Pittsburgh, not going to quite get there. The true freshman quarterback, California, not going to quite get there. So, again, you're still going to have very good teams being upset that they did not quite get to the playoffs. I do think there are diminishing returns if you make it bigger than 24, but I think 24 is the perfect spot for this. Rock and Rant, thank you for becoming a member for 21 months. Holy smokes, Rock and Rant. Thank you so much for your generosity. You are hereby knighted, cloak, and dagger. Have you seen the year-to-date Big Ten ratings versus the SEC and realized realignment choices of the Big Ten isn't just TV ratings thing, but their partners have to be concerned? No? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to flip the question a little bit here. Don't you think the SEC should be concerned? Those schools, aren't they being undervalued with their media contract? Maybe the SEC should not be so tied up with ESPN. Maybe they should get a good old bidding war going for 2032, 33, 34. Maybe the SEC should not, maybe the Southeastern Conference should be concerned that the Big Ten is going to go up for media negotiation rates in 2029. The SEC ratings are quite a bit higher this year than the Big Ten. They were higher last year, the year before, the year before, the year before, the year before. This year they're a little bit higher than usual. No question about it. I think the SEC has great advantage because they're on one bleeping, they're on ESPN or ABC. There's advantages to that, and there are disadvantages to that. Ratings, advantage. Maxing out on the money, disadvantage. But I don't know. I don't really know if there's concern at NBC, CBS, and Fox. I really don't. The Big Ten Network, which is third tier content of the Big Ten, is absolutely smoking it. They bringing in more revenue than projections. That's why when you see the Big Ten revenues of the Big Ten schools, it's every year it's higher than the projections. The conference payouts keep going a little bit higher than they were projected. That's not because of the Tier 1 money, which is locked and loaded. It's because of the Big Ten Network money. That third tier money, the ad rates in the Big Ten Network keeps going up and up and up. That's why the Big Ten Network has selected to do a Nielsen ratings. The SEC Network doesn't do that. The ACC Network doesn't do that. So I don't know if the third tier money, if the third tier content of the Big Ten can bring in these higher ad rates and the national advertisers are willing to buy into the Big Ten Network, then I would say that's probably a canary in the coal mine that the national advertisers are okay with the first tier numbers that are being out there. But I don't know that for sure. And if they are concerned about it, Well, we'll see what happens in a couple of years from now. And maybe that will affect the realignment choices of the Big Ten. Maybe the Big Ten is going to have to select a big brand, football brand, among their expansion. Maybe. Again, I think it's going to be a blend. I think it's going to end up being a blend. Big scoop, small scoop. Everybody's backs are going to have to get scratched. And that includes current and future media partners. Thank you, Rock and Rant. I appreciate it. Replica, Chauncey, they do have an interim head coach now at Trailblazers. They did bring on a new coach. Top champs for the G6 is the way to go, Numbskull News. That's what I would like. That's what I would prefer. I kind of understand the other way of doing it, though, where it's a top 2 rated. But I don't know, because now, here's another thing, though, Numbskull News. You're probably not going to have conference championship games. And because you're not going to have conference championship games, you would not want, let's say in the American, there are 2 top teams that are undefeated. They didn't play each other, or a tiebreaker decides among those 2 top teams of the G6 which one is the champ, and then the other one doesn't get to go to the playoffs. And they're obviously the 2 highest rated teams. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I can be persuaded either way. Expedition Greg, thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it, sir. Would the quarters and semis still be in the New Year's 6 bowl sites in the 2014 playoff? I think so, yes. I did hear that, I heard some report that if the playoffs does not change for 2026, if it's a 12-team playoff, nothing changes, that the bowl tie-ins, because a lot of these bowl tie-ins with the conferences, what bowl games you are tied to, for the most of these bowls, the contract is gonna automatically extend for another year. Or if it's not automatic, it's gonna be extended for another year. Like the bowl schedules, most of the bowl tie-ins with the conferences will not change. And then we'll figure out what happens for 2027 bowls. Thank you, Expedition Greg. Yes, but the quarters and semis most likely would be the New Year's 6 bowl sites. Thank you so very much. Thank you for the $5 holla. I appreciate it. Christopher Hooter. I've explained this 1,000 times, Mr. Hooter. Great. Super chat. What makes 24 so sweet versus 12, 16, or 32? Because I think 24, you do not get the laws of diminishing returns. I just went through all that. I think with 24, after 8 weeks, going into week 9, there would still be 45 teams, 46 teams still in the hunt to make the playoffs. 45, 46 out of 136. I think that's real healthy. Real healthy for the sport. And then after this week, another 5 to 10 teams, maybe a little bit more, fall off. And then next week, and then we finally get to the 24. But going into week 9, having over 40 teams in the hunt, I do not. I think that raises the value of the regular season. I think that's a healthy number. If you get too high, then there's too many teams in the hunt. In other words, week 0, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first 9 weeks of the season, 8 full ones, 8 full schedules, with week 0 being a couple of games. That has eliminated 90 teams. 40-some teams are still in the hunt. I think that's a very good balance. I don't think that's participation trophy situation. And I don't think that it's cutting off a bunch of fan bases after week 8. I think that's a really good number. I think it's an excellent number. So I do like 24 more than any other number. And plus 24 gives you 8 first round home games. And then in the second round, it gives you 8 second round home games to the top 8 schools. I think that is very healthy for the sport. Very healthy for the programs. Very healthy for those communities. Very healthy for the media partners. And I think we would eat it up as college football fans. That's my answer. Thank you, John Famlord. Totally agree with Greg on your take of how 24 helps the interest of the sport. This is the CFP 24 War Room right here. And it sounds like Joel Klatt, he says some traction. There is some traction for this idea. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I've missed anything. Super Bowl 3. Is that my Vikings against the Kansas City Chiefs? Is that Super Bowl 3? All I know is I've heard Frank Tarkenton talk about this. He has no direct evidence. Once I tell you this story, I will. I'll get the phone calls. But Frank Tarkenton, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, 0-3 in the Super Bowls with the Vikings, but got us to 3 Super Bowls. Won 3 NFC Championship games with the Vikings. He still is like the number 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th quarterback with all-time passing yards in the NFL. And he retired back in 1979 or something, 1978. Frank Tarkenton said, he used to do all these speeches. Okay, number 4, Chiefs and the Vikings. Thank you, John. Jets and the Colts. Thank you. Frank Tarkenton said at one of these, he always gave these speeches, back when he was in his 50s and 60s and 70s. And Frank Tarkenton talked about when the Vikings played the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the Super Bowl. And the Vikings ended up losing 16-6. And Frank Tarkenton said when he got up behind center the first time they had the football, and he looked out at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first a thought came to his mind. It was, those rumors are true. Those rumors are true. it was rumored back in the day in the NFL that the Steelers allegedly, I'm going to get a bunch of Penn State fans mad at me. Allegedly, Pittsburgh was the first professional team to really take part in, with the roids. And Tarkenton was like, okay. Because they were so much bigger. I mean, the Vikings Purple People Eaters was an incredible defense for over a decade. They were incredibly small versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Vikings got pounded. It was not even competitive. It was 16-6. But the Steelers defense did whatever they wanted, and they did it for 4 years afterwards. Tony Dungy said something, a lot of people have, but at the time, Frank Tarkenton said, when he lined up on his center and saw how big the Steelers were, he was like, damn, the rumors are true, and they got absolutely blown out of the water. I don't know if it's true, though. I don't know if it's true. Justin R. Thank you, Justin R, for the super chat. For non-college football playoff games in 2026, it should be 2 tiers. Tier 1 with teams that have won 9+ games. Tier 2 with teams that have won 6 to 8 games. Do a selection Saturday show and draw the bowl game matchups for both tiers like bingo. Very creative, Justin R. Very creative. Some conferences are going to declare that their 9-win games are more valuable than other 8 wins of other conferences, so they should not be at a different tier and all that stuff. So I don't think that's going to work, but Justin R., I appreciate the creativeness of it. Thank you, sir. Bingo, draw it out, Saturday show. I do think once you get to a 2014 playoffs, and I think it will be straight seeded, and I think it will be done by the selection committee. I think you're going to have a big boon in college football bracketology. I think you're going to have a lot of sites with these matrix showing, I think this is there. I think TCU is going to be 14th. This matrix says TCU is going to be number 16th. Just they're going to get a home game in the first round. You're going to have all this stuff going on. If you go to a 2014 playoffs, I think it's only going to encourage the casuals to get more involved in it, just like the NCAA basketball. My prop, thank you for the $10 holla. Thank you, Justin R., for your generosity. Very creative comment. I appreciate that, Mr. South Florida Bulls. My prop, we need a 24-team college football playoff. My prop has spoken. I have listened. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Man, we've been on the air for 1 hour and 30 minutes, and I was planning an hour show. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. The time has flown. Let me check something real quick here. Again, we are going to be doing a watch party this Saturday, 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. 11:45 Eastern Time. We're going to be doing the UCLA versus the Indiana Hoosiers. I say that we're going to do that game. Indiana had an incredible football season last year. Indiana is having even a better football season this year. The only watch party that I've done for the Indiana Hoosiers was a playoff game against Notre Dame last year. I have not done a regular season watch party, so we're going to do it. We are going to do it this Saturday. Indiana, UCLA. We'll see what's going to happen. We'll see what's going to happen. UCLA playing at 9 in the morning Pacific Coast time. Yeah. Nebraska, Steve, how about a CFP with AQ to each of the P4s? 1, 2, and playing with 8, I don't think there's going to be any playing games with this. I think the conference championship games will go away, and I think the play-in games will go away because the 2014 playoffs is an added game or an added 2 games for a lot of these teams. So I don't think the play-in games are going to be part of it or a conference championship games. Christopher Hooter, if it happens. Christopher Hooter, traditionally the season starts Labor Day. How do you move that up 2 weeks to make room for the CFP 24? That's vacation season. Easier said than done. Move your vacation, Christopher Hooter. Move your vacation, for God's sakes. This is college football. This is college football. I think you would have, you know what? I think you would move it. You're not going to have a conference championship games. You're not going to have play-ins. So you gain 1 week. So basically have week 0 be week 1. Have week 0 be week 1. Done. Finished. Done. Over. Or go ahead and go another week. But the main thing, Christopher Hooter, the main thing is move your vacation. You got to go to Greece. I got to watch college football. You got to go to Greece. I got to have a 2014 playoffs. What is more important? What is more important? 2014 playoffs. You can watch, look, the LSU Tigers in this projection, the LSU Tigers would play Oklahoma while you're in Greece. The Tigers don't need you, Hooter. The Tigers can win that game. They can win that game without you. And then you'll be back from Greece ready to play the Alabama Crimson Tide. Everyone has to change their schedule around college football. You're welcome, Nebraska, Steve. I think all that is going to be eliminated if this happens. What's Greg DeGold's record against the spread? 57 and 53. And you guys are 53 and 57. We made our predictions yesterday against the spread. I'm hoping to have a big, big week. I need a big, big week. Okay, guys, I think we're going to close it up. We're not going to have phone calls tonight. I apologize. This went on a lot longer. We had a lot more fun. We had a lot of fun talking about this. Hemmer Henderson, thank you so very much for your generosity. Expedition Greg, thank you. Village Idiot, Ryan Thomas, Mayor McCheese, Kenneth Maynard, John Teal, Rock and Rant, Expedition Greg, Christopher Hooter, Justin R. Thank you guys for your generosity. Help us keep the lights on. Help us grow the channel. Thank you so very much. I'm very humbled that you would give your hard-earned money to this program. Thank you so very much. I want to thank people joining us. We did a show a little bit later tonight, Thursday, October 23rd. I have been very busy, gentlemen. But we got a live show done, and I cannot wait for this weekend. We went through the games, a lot of big games. Northwestern Nebraska, Kansas State, Kansas, UCLA, Indiana, Minnesota, Iowa, for the Bronze Pig, Florida, Rosedale, Virginia, North Carolina, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, LSU, BYU, Iowa State, Missouri, Vanderbilt, South Florida, Memphis, holy smokes, Illinois, Washington. And again, as I always say, keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up, brace for impact. We don't know what's going to happen in college football, but we're going to try to give you the best peek around the corner in the business. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,